Well, hello from Healdsburg, California. Dick Bugarske here, uh, live streaming from home in Teresa Court, right west of the high school. I started working here in 1975, and our family moved here in 1979, and we haven't moved. All three of the children, and now their spouses, and all the grandchildren, 8 grandchildren, all spreading out across the country. Really want to thank Mark Thiemig and the city of Healdsburg Community Services for pulling this off. Should be kind of a fun experiment. Connect with a lot of us that are sitting at home as we kind of walk through and live through this pandemic experience. I don't know, Mark, is there a way of you coming in at this point, or is that, where are we with that?
I'm good. Hello, Healdsburg. My name is Mark Thiemig. I'm the Community Services Director here in Healdsburg, and I'm so happy to have our first guest today, Dick Bugarske, on our new Live from Home. Really the goal with this is to help folks stay connected during this time. It's been quite interesting how things have progressed so quickly, and having folks shelter in place, stay at home is so important right now. But what's even more important is that we stay connected throughout this time. So the idea is this is just really an open conversation, time for Mr. Bugarske to share some thoughts, maybe tell a story, talk a little bit about his life, and share a little bit about what's happening in his family right now. We do have a couple options. If you do have questions for Dick, you can either post them in the comments, I'll be monitoring it, or you can email to communityservices@cityofhealdsburg.org. So take it away.
Well, I'll kind of let you, Mark, chime in with questions. That way I can stay relatively focused here, do my best. First, before I get started, I just want to just tip the cap. Thank you to all those folks who are the essential services folks, clearly the nurses, the doctors, everybody that works in the front lines, all the folks who go to work every day. I can't thank them enough. When I go to the grocery store or when I show up, I said, thank you for working. Really appreciate it. I know my family, I've got a daughter-in-law who's a nurse who's already working with coronavirus patients. I've got family all around the country. I'm the oldest of 9 children, so I've got family all over. A lot of them are in essential services. They're out there in the front lines working, doing their best, and I can't thank all of those folks enough. I've been very fortunate to be staying at home. I'm here with my wife, Claudia, and our daughter, Kate, who is in nursing school and had to pull up stakes and doing everything online. Brought her 8-year-old and her 5-month-old who are living with us. So we are not only staying at home, but we're helping raise children and support our daughter and her husband back and forth from the city, San Francisco. So it's very blessed to have that. One of the things I think that we've discovered is the tremendous amount of connection that's happening through texts, through videos with our family members, and connecting all of them so frequently. A lot of it's kind of some dark humor, some interesting. We've got my oldest son is in Texas with 3 children. They've been similar sort of lockdown that we are. My other son is up in Tahoe. All he's got is lots of snow up there. We're learning how to do homeschooling, getting very familiar with Zoom. My 8-year-old granddaughter has a wonderful teacher out of San Francisco, second grade teacher, and those kids connect all the time. I'm learning to see, and my 8-year-old granddaughter is incredibly good at Roblox, and so I'm learning that game and all of those sorts of things. So it's pretty amazing looking at how our lives have changed and how much we have learned to adapt. I've been to Costco and been to Safeway and been to different places. A couple of times we've had lists from about 4 or 5 other folks in the neighborhoods. We've tried to help them out and get groceries and follow up on that. Many of us in our 70s, we're in that age group that's supposed to be very careful, and that we are trying to be extremely careful, and careful not only for ourselves but also for the folks around us going through this somewhat surreal time. I don't know if there's any questions, Mark. I'm not trying to follow the sidelines here, so I'm just trying to move forward on this. If there's anybody's got a question or anything, I did want to kind of talk a little bit about a little deep dive of history I did. I thought it would be very good for me to understand what 1918 was like. I do know that in 1919, that time, Sonoma County was one of the top 10 produce producers in the country, hence the packing of prunes being sent, a tremendous amount of war efforts going on in Europe, and we were sending a lot of dried fruit to the troops in Europe, and there's a lot of energy and effort to support the war as we were kind of heading out here in our own little world out in Healdsburg in 1918. The flu hit San Francisco, second mutation of the flu hit San Francisco in September of 1918, and in October of 1918, right about in the middle of it, it came into Sonoma County and into Healdsburg. The city fathers of Healdsburg and mothers were similar to where they are right now. They were very on top of things. They got out there and kind of shut things down. Schools were closed. They were flushing the streets. They were encouraging everyone to muzzle themselves with masks. And for about a month, from mid-October to mid-November, the virus, the flu, came through. It was a very different type of flu. It's an H1N1 flu compared to the coronavirus flu. So this is a very quick one. People get sick real fast, get pneumonia, and die very quickly. Sadly, there's a number of stories about people getting sick and being dead within days almost. Apparently it didn't affect the young ones or the older folks as much as it did the most healthy ones. Apparently their bodies, one of the theories is that their bodies were so strong that their immune system overreacted and literally flooded the lungs to fight the virus. And they died of pneumonia fairly quickly. There were very little ventilator and those sorts of things back in 1918. By midnight, the armistice, of course, was the end of the war was November 11th, 1918. And so there was this real energy. Christmas was coming to get people back to work, get people back out of the streets. The flu seemed to be subsiding. They were mandating that people wear masks and get out there. That was going until late December, and the flu came back with a vengeance. They were starting to demand people wear masks. They were charging people $5 fines if you weren't wearing a mask. End of December and into January was pretty brutal. Schools closed again. They were stopping all sorts of events. This dragged on into all through January, and by somewhere in the beginning of February, things started to subside. So I was thinking about, well, it started in October, November, December, and January, and into February before they pushed a lot of events. And there was a big article in the February 1919 paper about how they were going to use the 4th of July as an incredible celebration to celebrate the end of the war, but celebrate the fact that the flu was over and all these events that had been canceled were able to get started up again. So there was a 4 or 5 month challenge. And of course, people were wearing gauze masks and bandanas, which really weren't that effective for stopping the flu. And they got back out into the community and started acting and living their lives like a normal would do, with just a little face mask on. And of course, the flu came back with a vengeance. And so ultimately, the United States lost almost 700,000 people during that time, 20 to 50 million across the world. Incredibly difficult time. The sanitation was very limited. People didn't have a whole lot of ways of fighting it and dealing with it. So I think the fact that we are kind of living through something that seems endless, and that there's it's not sure what's going to be happening. It does come to an end, but it's difficult when it's happening, for sure. That was an interesting aspect of doing a little research on that. Anything up there, Mark? I'll squint and see if there's any questions or anything other than just. Go ahead.
I have a question about kind of looking forward, which maybe we can get to in a little bit, and then a question on the city's resurrected a lot of the work that you and Gail Jonas have done with the Neighbors Network, and so maybe a little perspective on how that came to be. But how about before we get there, how about telling a little bit about what you guys are doing to stay connected? And I know you mentioned it sooner, but what kind of activities are you doing at home? And how are you staying connected with everyone?
Well, I think that we're relying certainly on a lot of just meetings that I've been involved in different groups, discovering free conference call and Zoom, and that has been an incredibly interesting experience to connect with folks. My daughter is her whole classes, her nursing classes are using Zoom. I immediately went out and upgraded our Xfinity so that we had a little wider bandwidth because we knew that was going to happen. We're in constant contact with our kids through FaceTime and through chatting, and so there's a real it's very comfortable to know that they're doing well and we're connecting with them. We're all kind of in the similar boat. My granddaughter is working with online education, schooling. The same thing is happening up in Texas and in Tahoe. We're all as a family kind of connecting with each other, also connecting with the world around us, and I think that's happening in many different ways. Claudia has been furiously making masks right now, so she and a lot of folks that she's connected with are all getting elastic and getting material out there and making masks so that we don't take any masks from anyone else. With my daughter-in-law being a nurse in a hospital that has patients, she's desperately in need of any protective equipment, any protective either mask and equipment that people can get to her. So we've looked, scrounging through your garage, going through things, sending things off. I think that's something that all of us are probably making an effort to do to the extent that we can. I know that there's a lot of things going on in the community that where folks are out there helping and supporting. You talked about the Neighbors Network. It's one of those interesting things with having two small children in the house and not feeling comfortable going out and getting involved, although I would love to. It's also, I think we're relying on walking through the neighborhood with a stroller, taking a hike and a walk, but keeping the distance, respecting everybody, as well as making sure we take care of ourselves as well, and also not bringing anything into the house because we do have children and other folks in the house as well. So it certainly is an interesting. There was so many things. One of the first things I did was just took my calendars to erased everything because there was nothing. My calendar was empty, and then you kind of look around and all the things that you're normally doing on a daily basis, all of a sudden you're not preparing for and not doing, and so but the day is, you wake up each morning going, are we still doing this? Are we still in this pandemic? And then you just look at the statistics and watch the sad toll that it's taking on our country and on all of us, and that's challenging. Also, it's challenging to listen to my kids getting laid off, losing job, not working. That's been an interesting challenge, and talking about what that looks like, sitting down and helping them fill out unemployment, and doing that both closely and from a distance. So I think those personal tolls are challenging. And we're not the only, obviously there's everybody's really suffering for that. That's I think every day is, you kind of have to kind of pull yourself into a routine and make sure that things are happening. Of course, having a 5-month-old, we spent a lot of time with him. So that's another factor, but that's a blessing to have a couple of small children around, and they are pretty oblivious to the severity and the seriousness of this. We try and keep it fun and light, but at the same time, we're cognizant of some of the challenges that so many people have at this point.
What's happening in your neighborhood? One of the things that we're really focusing on is trying to help people stay connected. Where our primary focus up to this point has been our older adult and our senior community. We're doing a few things there, but we really want to, we feel like we've got that kind of in place, those systems in place. We're delivering groceries. We're working with the Meals on Wheels program. We're still doing dash rides for folks who have critical, or not critical, but important medical appointments. And then we're relaunching the Neighbors Network to help people help each other, and we're kind of a conduit for that. But what do you see in your neighborhood, like amongst your neighbors, and what are they doing?
Well, I think that each of the folks that are around us, we're able to go outside, we see each other, we talk. We've done some shopping and helping as others have done for each other. I think everybody reacting in their own unique way. Some are more comfortable getting out and doing things. Others are much more afraid. I think we're very lucky to have a neighborhood that's gotten close. I think it's happened from the fires and some of the things that we've been through. I think Healdsburg especially is a special place for that, where folks have really rolled up their sleeves and supported each other. So we've kind of carried that on. And so we get to connect with our neighbors and talk with them and see if there's any needs and so forth, and been able to help out whenever we can. So there's that feels good, and that's good. We're all pretty, we're all a little bit older in this neighborhood. We do have a few folks just around the corner who are off to work every day. They work for the city. They work at essential jobs. And so I'm very appreciative and proud of them that, they're the ones that are kind of going out into the world and kind of dealing with making sure that things are working so that we're okay. But yeah, I think we're okay. I think we're comfortable connecting with each other, talking with each other, helping each other out. So we're lucky right in our neighborhood, but we haven't. I know that my wife and daughter have walked a bit more and connected with folks. I know that there's some folks who do walk out and walk through the community and connect. And there are some folks, since we were involved in Neighbors Network, we're still involved with a few folks. We help out when we need to. But all that's, you all have every time that now is somewhat calculated. Okay, how do I do this? What's the process? How am I going to make this work? Everybody has their own level of concern about whomever they're kind of, where are you when you see somebody, when you connect with somebody, even close friends, we always would greet with a hug. We stay 6 feet apart, and we kind of, care about them and show our affection for them, but we keep a distance. So that whole process is still getting used to process, to say the least. Yeah. Yeah,
that's so true. So, you're the voice of Healdsburg, right? You are what people know when they hear a voice at football games and at baseball games and things like that. So I want to ask you, what do you miss the most right now?
Well, I think one of the great joys of Healdsburg is it is a really, really great community. There's some really special folks. The kids are fantastic. The families. I've been so fortunate to have a long history and an arc through some generations. I was connected with my Key Club kids this morning and reaching out to some of them, many of whom are seniors. We're still working. The Kiwanis Club is still working through and getting our scholarship things in place. That's the hardest thing, to not see the kids, not see them, and not be connected to them. I think those are and I feel really, I have a grandson who was a senior, was a pitcher, and he was starting off the season and doing great, and all of a sudden it just ended just like that. And there's so many of the kids that we had 2 or 3 baseball games. Mark Dominichelli, the new baseball coach, getting to see some of the kids. They were off to a 3-2 start, so that was exciting to see that and to know. And what's really special to me, and this is, so I'm sitting there announcing a game, and I see the kids out there playing, and I see their parents, and then I see the grandparents, all of whom I know, and I know that connection of a family, that family of 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 generations, that just buoys me up. I mean, those are one of the special things, to see that and being involved in the sports part of that. I know that there are a lot of other activities and groups in town. I've clinged on to the sports, for the longest time, but those are special moments, and to be able to talk about that and see like the catcher Hunter Irons, whose grandfather was a prune packer. I mean, those sorts of things, and that to carry those stories forward, and also see how they propel into the future, and see kids grow and change, and see a kid as a freshman and a sophomore, and all of a sudden as a junior and a senior, and watch them heading off into the world, and then see them come back, or connect with them on LinkedIn, or find something and to hear their stories about how their lives have evolved and where they've gone. That's a special place to be in, and I've been very fortunate to be a part of that, and to continue that on in any way that I can, and support that. It's their lives, they're our future, and boy, I just feel lucky to be around it. That makes it really special for me. And that's something I miss. I think we all miss that. I think we miss those sort of casual things that we just took for granted, meaning someone in the store, someone when you're walking, driving a place, connecting with people. We've tried to replicate that the best we can online, but it's something that we'll all enjoy coming back to, for sure.
So let's look ahead, right? We're going to make it through this. We're going to be stronger. We're going to be better. We're going to be more connected. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to when that time comes.
Well, I know that there'll be a process. We'll, just looking at 1918 and 1919, where they were getting back out in the community. There were certain activities, certain things that had been closed, and there was an article saying we've canceled all dances because dances are one of the worst ways of getting influenza. But I think that we'll see things start to come back. There'll be a process. We'll start the grouping. We don't want any groups larger than 25, or we want to have distancing, but we'll start to feel more comfortable. I think we'll also have some scientific aspects of things. We'll also be able to determine who actually has immunity. Where are we with some of those sorts of things? What kind of we'll have some measurements of some of that. So we'll also feel, I mean, just looking how some of the grocery stores and some of the places have dealt with that. So people are out doing things and taking care of things and getting involved, but within a different sort of framework. So we'll keep some of those frameworks. That'll start to shrink, and all of a sudden we will see it get back together. We'll do it in a smart way. That's how this city is. It's a smart place, and we'll be careful with each other. We'll start seeing some of the events, and some of the things start to happen again. It'll be a little different, but it will eventually move so that I'm hoping. I want to be optimistic, but you want to hope summer, we start seeing some things happen in summer and the fall. Maybe we can kind of get back to taking that next step and the next step and the next step. I don't see the door swinging wide open, but I see it slowly moving open, and all of us kind of figuring out best ways of making it happen. That's going to be smart and safe and respectful. And I'm excited about that. It'll be fun to see where that how we figure that all out, because we'll be able to do it. We'll make it work.
So Healdsburg's been through a lot, right? Over the past few years, we've had 2 major wildfires in the area. We had a flood. Now we have a pandemic. What do you see as a long-term resident in how the communities become resilient, and what do you think we'll learn from this?
Well, I think if I can use the fire analogy, I say personally, I think you look at your life and how you prepare, just what's important. Things get moved forward that are more important, and things get pushed back that are less important. I think the sense of connecting with our fellow citizens and fellow residents is always being moved forward, because I think that's healthy for us. It's healthy for us to be around the people in this community. I think that that is an incredibly valuable thing that we learn to pull forward. Some of the other extraneous sorts of things we can push to the back. I think those sorts of things will continue to evolve inside of each of us. And then and I think that's something that those are lessons that we learn every time. And I think that's this lesson is monstrously big lesson, because not only are we dealing with those sorts of personal things and those sorts of local things, but we have to have a whole different way of looking at how we just kind of go about our business, and then how do we prepare for the next one? What are some really smart ways that we can kind of take some of these lessons, take some of the ways that we're operating, and weave them into our next iteration of this life going forward? Because I think it's some really exciting opportunities to expand all of those possibilities, and just watching some of the young folks and how they operate, because they're the ones who are going to be leading us through all this. I think that we'll be smarter, we'll be more thoughtful. I think we'll learn how to be closer and support each other. And I stay really optimistic about that. I think that is I think that from any of these things, as horrible as they are and as difficult as they are, we get smarter and better, and we learn to reach out to each other in unique and better and really solid ways. And I think that's one of the solid things that and I'm so impressed with how well we do that as a community, and I just don't see that not getting any way but better. So, yep.
Well, I totally agree with that. After moving here in 2015 and having to work for the city, it is amazing at how caring and giving this community is. It really is, from people who donate their time, their money, whatever it is, their skills, their passions. It is quite remarkable. So, as you know, Dick, we have a couple of sports fans on our team, on the community services team, and they've sent in 2 questions for you.
Alrighty.
All right. So the first one is, what is your favorite memory as Voice of the Healdsburg Hounds over the years? And then second, now this might be tough to answer. I don't want you to get yourself in any trouble, but who is the best player you've seen come through the Prune Packers organization?
Well, I'll do the second one first. That it has to be Andrew Vaughn. What a special young man. He came out of Maria Carrillo, was just out of high school, just kind of took our summer by storm, went off to Cal, had 3 fantastic years, and got signed a major big contract for the Chicago White Sox, and just a special young man, just a special person. And I think that's one of the joys of the Prune Packers is having having young folks, local and from all over the country, that can come through and kind of keep that tradition that is, it's 100th season for Rec Park this summer, that we probably will embrace in a different way. Well, some of the special things we've had some, and I don't mean to pick on Cardinal Newman, but we've had some moments when some last second shots that have basketball that have made the basket has gone in, and the game is ended in a moment where there are 2 of those times that have happened where we've had a last second shot that's beat Cardinal Newman. And I love nothing against Cardinal Newman. I love all of their athletes and all of their players, but it's always fun to beat them in that. And I'd say those are because the basketball is such a fast pace, things are happening, and then at the last second you get a game-winning basket by one of our players against an arch rival. Those are special moments. I have so many fond memories. It's hard to pick one of them, but I'll stick with a couple of last second shots beating Cardinal Newman in basketball.
That's awesome. We're hitting 30 minutes here, so we'll probably wrap it up soon. There's a couple things that I want to give a shout out to Garrett Perdigo from our team and Matt Mildy. We have a contest going on this weekend. It is Project Doorway, and you can find more information on our Facebook page about that. The idea is decorate your front door, take a picture, and post it on our Facebook page under the post. and our Parks and Rec Commission is going to be judging those starting Sunday night into Monday with an announcement on Monday. So we'll be doing a new challenge each weekend. Again, we're trying to help keep people connected during this time, keep them engaged. I know a lot of homeschooling's going on. That's taking a lot of time. Hopefully this is something fun. We want you to do Project Doorway with your items in your home, not go out and buy them. So we're working on things too. We'll launch some more things in the future. So, Mr. Bugarske, any advice you can give folks as we move forward for the next month or so on how they can stay positive and connected?
Yeah, stay close to your family, stay close to your neighbors and friends, reach out to you folks in the city and all those folks who are heading out every day to be our essential workers. Just spend a lot of love and thoughts to all of them. And special thanks to you, Mark, and all of your folks and everybody in the city. Just, it's to just those simple things of being able to feel that we to know that you folks have our back, and I really appreciate all that. Those are kind of the unsung heroes, and tip of the cap to all of you. Really appreciate it, and thanks for having letting this thing happen. Kind of a fun little thing, little learning for me. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, it was learning for me too. So if anybody has community members who think it'd be great to be part of this, our Live from Home, we don't have a particular schedule set up. We're going to work on that. But Dick, thank you for sharing some time with us in the community. And we want everyone to stay strong and stay connected.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.